welcome to the deep dive. And this deep dive was actually requested by you, Liam, from St. Louis, Missouri.
Oh, great.
Yeah, you've got a very specific goal. You want to buy $500 worth of Bitcoin next month.
Okay, a clear objective. We like that.
Exactly. So this is season 2, episode 17A of the deep dive. We're calling this season Blockchain Blueprint, Cryptocurrencies, Digital Assets, and More.
And this particular deep dive was produced by Katie St. Ors. She's a digital asset tax specialist. And actually, she also wrote one of the main guides we're looking at today.
Ah, perfect. So our mission here is pretty straightforward. We want to take the sources you sent, Liam, that's excerpts from the Binance website, and that beginner's guide on buying $500 in Bitcoin.
Right, Katie's guide.
Yeah, Katie's guide. And we want to unpack them to give you a clear step-by-step path for reaching your goal.
We'll pull out the really important stuff, look at the key steps, maybe flag some potential hurdles the sources mentioned, basically help you figure out how to navigate this according to the material.
Okay, let's dive in. But first, and this is really, really important, we have to say this up front, the disclaimer.
Yes, crucial.
Investing in cryptocurrencies involves significant risk. You could potentially lose your principal investment. Prices are, they're notoriously volatile.
Highly volatile, yeah.
So the information we're sharing today, it comes directly from the source material you provided, Liam. It's for informational purposes only.
It is absolutely not financial advice. Cannot stress that enough.
You absolutely need to do your own thorough research, think carefully about your own risk tolerance before you put any money in.
Okay, with that very necessary caution out of the way, let's get into what these sources actually say about buying Bitcoin. They focus heavily on one platform, Binance.
Right. So maybe we should start there. Based on the sources, what is a cryptocurrency exchange like Binance?
Sure. The source material basically describes it as a digital marketplace. Think of it like a stock exchange, but for crypto. It's where you go online to buy, sell, or trade different cryptocurrencies.
Yeah.
Bitcoin, Ethereum, loads of others, using either traditional money, like your US dollars, or sometimes other digital assets.
And the sources seem to really emphasize Binance. What do they say makes it sort of stand out?
Well, the Binance website excerpt itself points out it's the largest crypto exchange in the world, measured by trading volume.
Largest globally.
Yeah, and the beginner's guide backs that up with some big numbers. It mentions over 275 million registered users operating in more than 180 countries. It's just a massive platform for crypto activity.
That is huge. The Binance source also lists a whole bunch of products: spot, margin, futures, earn, NFTs. It sounds pretty complex.
It definitely can be. They offer a really wide range of things, hundreds of different coins, complex trading tools. But look, for your goal, Liam, just buying $500 worth of Bitcoin as a first step, we're really just focused on its main function. Using it as the place to swap your dollars for Bitcoin. The sources suggest we don't need to worry about all that other complexity for this initial purchase. It's the on-ramp we care about right now.
Got it. Keep it simple. Use this big marketplace to make the $500 exchange. So the beginner's guide, Katie's guide, it lays out steps for this, right?
It does, yeah. Very clearly breaks it down into stages. The first one is really just about getting your account set up and, importantly, making it secure.
Okay, step 1 then. Creating and securing your account. And the sources, they jump right into warnings here, don't they?
They do. Straight away, the guide warns about phishing sites. You've got to be absolutely certain you're on the official Binance website. Check that URL in your browser carefully before you type anything in.
Good point. Then the sign up itself.
Pretty standard stuff. Use your email or phone number or maybe even a Google or Apple account link. Then critically, create a strong password. The guide really emphasizes this. Make it unique, complex, maybe use a password manager.
Mix of characters, numbers, symbols, all that jazz.
Exactly. And then you'll need to verify your email or phone number, just confirming your contact details.
Okay, basic setup. But then comes something the sources seem to really hammer home.
Trade in your boring job for a brilliant career using Adobe Creative Cloud. Start learning now with the free trial link in the description.
Setting up two-factor authentication, or 2FA, immediately.
Yeah, this isn't just recommended. The sources frame it as absolutely vital. Your password alone, it's just not enough protection in this space.
Why is 2FA so important?
It adds that second layer of security. So even if someone somehow gets your password, maybe through phishing, maybe a data breach somewhere else, they still can't get into your account without that second factor. It makes a huge difference.
Okay, so what are the main options for this second factor that the sources talk about?
Both guides mention a few. The one they seem to recommend most strongly is using an authenticator app.
Like Google Authenticator. or Authy.
Exactly. Those are the common examples given. You scan a QR code during setup, and then the app on your phone generates these time-sensitive codes that change every 30 seconds or so. You need that code to log in or make withdrawals.
And the guide flags something absolutely critical about using these apps.
Yes. This is probably the single most important security tip in the whole process, according to the sources.
Yeah.
When you set up that Authenticator app, you'll be given a recovery key or a seed phrase.
Right.
You must back this up securely. Write it down, store it somewhere safe, offline. Don't just save it on your computer or phone.
Why offline?
Think about it. If you lose your phone, or the app gets deleted, or your phone breaks, without that backup key, getting back into your Binance account can become incredibly difficult, maybe even impossible. You could lose access to your funds.
Wow. Okay. That's a huge takeaway. Back up the Authenticator recovery key, keep it offline and safe. Are there other 2FA options mentioned?
Yeah, the sources list security keys too. Those are like little USB hardware devices. They offer very strong security, probably the strongest.
Okay.
And SMS authentication, getting codes by text message, is also usually an option. But the sources explicitly say it's less secure than an Authenticator app or a hardware key
Why less secure?
because of risks like SIM swapping, where someone could potentially hijack your phone number. So the clear preference from the sources is Authenticator app or security key.
Got it. So step 1, create the account, verify contacts, and immediately lock it down with strong 2FA, preferably an app or key, and critically back up that recovery code offline. What's next, according to the guide?
Step 2 is completing identity verification. You'll often see this called KYC, Know Your Customer.
Yes, KYC.
The sources are very clear. This is mandatory. It's a regulatory thing. You have to do this before you can deposit fiat currency, like the $500 you want to use, before you can actually buy crypto with those dollars.
So I can't just set up my secure account and immediately deposit my $500.
Not typically for fiat deposits, no. The exchange needs to verify who you are for legal compliance reasons.
Okay. What does that process involve based on the sources?
You'll need to find the verification section in your Binance account settings. Select your country, choose a verification level. The guide suggests basic or intermediate is usually enough for a $500 deposit.
And what information do they need?
Your personal details, full legal name, date of birth, your address, and then you'll need to upload documents.
Like ID.
Yeah, clear photos of a government-issued ID. Could be your passport, driver's license, maybe a national ID card. Depending on where you are and the level, sometimes they ask for proof of address too.
Like a utility bill or bank statement?
Exactly. Something recent showing your name and address.
And the sources also mentioned something about your face. A selfie.
Yes, that's pretty standard too. There's usually a liveness check or a facial recognition step. You might take a selfie through their app or do a quick face scan using your webcam or phone camera just to match your face to the ID you submitted.
Makes sense. And then you just wait.
Pretty much. The source says approval time can vary. Sometimes it's quick, just a few minutes. Other times, if they're busy, it might take a day or two, maybe longer. You'll usually get an email or a notification once it's approved.
All right. So, account's created, it's secured with 2FA, recovery key safely backed up, and now identity is verified. Finally, we can get the money in, right? Step 3, depositing the $500 USD.
Yes, now you're ready to fund the account. And the guide actually makes a smart suggestion here.
Oh, yeah.
It suggests maybe depositing slightly more than the $500 you want to spend, say $510 or $515.
Why is that?
Just to make sure you have enough to cover any potential small fees, either deposit fees or the trading fees when you actually buy the Bitcoin. Gives you a little buffer.
Good tip. Okay, so how do you actually get the dollars onto Binance, according to the sources?
You'd go to your wallet or the deposit section on the site, choose fiat deposit, and then specifically select USD as the currency.
And what methods do they list for depositing USD?
The sources cover the common ones, and importantly, they talk about the pros and cons, especially around speed and fees. Bank transfer like ACH in the US is often mentioned.
How does that work?
The big advantage, according to one source discussing Binance, US specifically, is that it can have very low or even zero fees for the deposit itself.
Zero fees sounds good.
It does, but the trade-off is time. Bank transfers aren't instant. The sources say it can take anywhere from 1 to 3, maybe even 1 to 5 business days for the money to actually clear and show up in your Binance account.
Okay, so low cost but slow. What about using a credit or debit card? That feels like it would be faster.
It usually is much faster, often instant or near instant. That's the convenience factor.
Than the Visage.
A potentially big one, yes. The sources are quite clear that convenience comes at a cost. One source notes that using a debit card on Binance.us, for instance, could carry a fee as high as 4.5% in some cases.
Whoa, hold on. 4.5%. On $500, that's like $22.50 just for the deposit.
Exactly. Compared to potentially zero fee for a bank transfer, though slower. Plus, your own bank might charge fees too, or treat it like a cash advance, which has high interest. So you need to check that.
Trade in your boring job for a brilliant career using Adobe Creative Cloud. Start learning now with the free trial link in the description.
That fee difference is huge. That's definitely something you, Liam, need to weigh up speed versus cost.
Absolutely critical decision based on the source info.
Yeah.
They also briefly mention things like P2P trading or third-party payment providers, but for a simple first deposit like yours, the focus really seems to be on bank transfer versus card.
Okay, so you pick your method, follow the instructions, link your bank account, or enter card details, and then wait for the notification that the funds have arrived.
That's it. You'll see the USD balance appear in your fiat wallet on Binance.
Right, the money's there. Step 4. Finally buying the Bitcoin. This is the main event.
This is it. So the guide directs you to the trading section, and for a beginner making a straightforward purchase like this $500 one, it specifically recommends using the simplified buy crypto option that Binance offers.
Okay, a simple option sounds good. How does that work?
It's designed to be really easy. You basically select buy, choose Bitcoin, BTC is a ticker symbol, tell it you want to pay using your USD balance, and then enter the amount $500. Before you confirm, it will show you an estimate. You'll see roughly how much Bitcoin you'll get for your $500 based on the current market price. And importantly, it will clearly display any fees involved in that specific transaction.
So it's transparent up front?
Supposedly, yes. Once you review that and hit confirm, boom, Bitcoin is bought and credited directly to what they call your spot wallet on Binance.
Spot wallet, what's that exactly? Is that different from the fiat wallet where the USD landed?
Yeah, think of the spot wallet as your main holding area for cryptocurrencies on the exchange. When you buy crypto directly like this, or if you were to deposit crypto from elsewhere, it usually lands in your spot wallet. It's ready to be held, sold, or maybe used elsewhere on the platform later.
Okay. The source material also briefly mentioned a more complex spot trading interface with things like market orders. Should I worry about that for this first buy?
The guide strongly suggests no, not for this first $500 purchase. Stick with the simple buy crypto option. That spot trading interface gives you more granular control, yes. You can choose specific order types, like a market order, which just buys immediately at the best available price, or limit orders, where you set a specific price you want to buy at. But for just getting started, the simple buy option bypasses all that complexity.
Makes sense. Keep it simple for the first time. Enter $500, review the estimate and fees, confirm, and the Bitcoin magically appears in the spot wallet. Okay, so the purchase is done. What's the very next thing the guide says to do? Step 5 seems to cover review and security again.
Exactly. Step 5 in the guide is about reviewing what just happened and then immediately thinking about the security and storage of the Bitcoin you now own.
So reviewing means checking the balance, I assume.
Yes, first thing is to check your spot wallet. You should see your new Bitcoin balance there, and your USD balance will have gone down accordingly. But reviewing also means understanding the fees you actually paid.
Right. Connecting back to that buffer amount, maybe.
Precisely. You had deposit fees, potentially, depending on your method, and then there are trading fees for the actual purchase.
What kind of trading fees do the sources mention?
Standard spot trading fees on a big exchange like Binance are often quite low. The source mentioned something like 0.1% is typical.
So on $500, that's only like 50 cents.
Yeah, potentially very small for the trade itself. The simplified buy crypto option might wrap that fee into the price slightly differently or display it clearly, but it should be transparent. The key contrast the source makes is between that potentially tiny trading fee and that potentially large deposit fee if you used a card.
Seeing those numbers side by side really drives home how much the deposit method matters for your final Bitcoin amount.
It absolutely does. It can make a noticeable difference in how much BTC you actually get for your $500.
Okay, so you've reviewed the transaction, understood the fees, then the sources immediately pivot to storage options. This is about where the Bitcoin lives now. Right?
Correct. This is a really important consideration the sources raise. You've bought it, now where do you keep it?
What are the choices?
The main two choices discussed are leaving it on the exchange in your Binance spot wallet, or moving it to a personal wallet that you control.
Okay, what are the pros and cons mentioned for leaving it on Binance?
Convenience is the big pro, especially for beginners or smaller amounts like $500. It's right there, easy to see, easy to sell if you wanted to, easy to access other Binance features maybe.
But there's a downside.
The downside highlighted is control and risk. When your crypto is on the exchange, you don't technically hold the private keys. The exchange holds them for you. And exchanges, while they have strong security, they have been targets for hackers in the past. It's often summed up as not your keys, not your coins.
Okay, so the alternative for more security is a personal wallet.
Yes. The sources suggest moving it to a personal wallet gives you more control and potentially better security, especially for long-term holding. This could be a software wallet, an app on your computer or phone, or for sort of the highest level of security, a hardware wallet.
Like a Ledger, a Trezor, those little USB things.
Exactly. Those are common examples. They keep your private keys completely offline, isolated from internet threats. With a personal wallet, you control the keys.
And what does controlling the private keys really mean in practical terms?
Think of your Bitcoin as being stored in a digital vault. The private key is the unique, secret code that unlocks only your vault. If you have the key, only you can access and move the Bitcoin. If the exchange holds the key, they're essentially the custodian of your vault.
Got it. And just like with the 2FA recovery key, there's another absolutely vital warning about personal wallets and the sources.
Yes, another critical backup warning. If you set up a personal wallet, software or hardware, you'll be given a seed phrase or recovery phrase, usually 12 or 24 random words.
Right.
This seed phrase is your master key. It can be used to restore your entire wallet and access your Bitcoin if your device is lost, stolen, or damaged. You must back this seed phrase up, write it down accurately, store it securely offline, maybe in multiple safe places.
And if you lose the seed phrase,
and you don't have a backup, and your device fails, your Bitcoin is gone forever. There's no customer support to call, no password reset. You are your own bank, which means you are solely responsible for securing that seed phrase.
that is a heavy responsibility. Also, do the sources mention costs for moving Bitcoin off Binance?
Yes, they do mention that when you withdraw cryptocurrency from an exchange like Binance to an external personal wallet, there will typically be a small network withdrawal fee, which varies depending on the coin and how busy the network is.
Okay, so it's a trade-off. Convenience and potentially simpler interface on Binance versus the greater control, security, and responsibility of a personal wallet, plus a withdrawal fee.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
We'll see you next time.
See you later.
Okay, great. That's a wrap. I'm Katie St. Ors, and let me send out a huge thank you for listening. If you want more content on personal finance and small business, head over and find me on YouTube. You can also find me on Spotify, Amazon Music, TikTok, and Apple iTunes.